Chapter 5. Laying down laws and breaking them. Johnny. By the time I made it back to the changing room after a detour trip to the lunch hall to speak to the vice principal, Mrs. Lane, the team was finished with practice and most of the lads had finished showering. Ignoring the muffled remarks and stares when I walked in, I went straight to Patrick Feely, apologised for being a prick to him earlier, shook it out, and I skulked over to the bench. Sinking down beside my gear bag, I kicked my feet out, rested my head against the cool slabbed wall behind me, and exhaled a heavy breath as my brain went into overdrive, obsessing over every detail of the day's events. What the fucking day? Bullying. I wasn't a bully. I'd never laid eyes on the girl before, in my life. Apparently, that little gem of information was lost on our vice principal, who'd been called in by Mr. Toomey to help dispel the drama. After a 10-minute bollocking off Toomey's right-hand woman, I'd been given strict instructions to stay away from the Lynch girl. Her mother thought I was fucking bullying her and didn't want me going anywhere near her daughter. If I went near her again, I'd face immediate suspension. It was complete and utter bullshit, and I hoped Shannon had the decency to straighten it out and stand up for me. Fuck it, whatever. I'd keep a wide-ass berth. I didn't need the hassle. Girls were a fucking complication I didn't need. Even little ones with wild blue eyes. Damn it. Now I was thinking about her eyes again. She still has your jersey, I mentally noted, which made me sad for a whole different reason. It was new, and I'd only worn it this one fucking time. It looked better on her though, I begrudgingly acknowledged. She could keep it. I just hope she didn't throw it out. I'd have to pay 80 quid to replace the bleeding thing. You alright, Johnny boy? Gibbsy asked, interrupting my thoughts as he dropped down on the bench beside me. He was freshly showered and clad in a pair of boxers. How's the girl? He added, bending to root in his gear bag. Shaking my head, I turned and looked at him. Huh? The young one, he explained, retrieving a can of deodorant. Who is she? Shannon, I mumbled. She's new, a third year. Today's her first day. Is she okay? He asked, spraying each armpit with Lynx before tossing the can back in his bag and reaching for his grey school trousers. If she looked out of it, fuck if I know, man. I think I really did a number on her brain. I muttered with a helpless shrug. Her mother's taken her to the hospital to get her checked over. Gibbsy paused, frowning. Shit. Yeah, I agreed grimly. Shite. Jesus, it must have been mortifying for her. Slipping his feet into his pants, he stood up and dragged them up his hips. Having your ass on display for the rugby team on your first day? Yeah, I replied, because what else could I say? It was humiliating for her, and I was responsible for that. I blew out a frustrated breath. Was anything said about her? I looked round at our teammates and then back to my best friend with only one thing in my mind. Damage control. Were they talking about her? Gibbsy raised his brows at my question. Actually, I think the raised brows and surprised expression had more to do with the tone of my voice. Well, he began slowly. She had her pussy and ass out, Cap. Very nice ass that matches her very nice rest of her. So yeah, lad, there's been talk. What kind of talk? I bit out. feeling an irrational surge of anger boil inside of me. I had no fucking clue where the agitation was coming from, but it was there. It was strong and it was making me feel half demented. Interest, lad, Gibbs explained calmly, much calmer than me. A lot of interest. Reaching into his bag, he withdrew his white school short and shrugged it on. In case it slipped your attention, and going by your reaction I know it didn't, that girl's a corker. He buttoned up his shirt with steady hands. Meanwhile I was trembling with energy that needed to be worked out of my body quickly. She's gorgeous and she's new, and the lads are, curious, he added, choosing words carefully. New is always fun. He paused, grinning before adding, gorgeous is better. It stops, I growled, agitated at the concept of my teammates talking about her. I saw that look in her eyes. I heard it in her voice, that vulnerability. She wasn't like the others. This girl was different. I barely knew her, but I could tell that this one needed minding. Something had happened to Shannon Lynch, something bad enough that resulted in her switching schools. It didn't sit well with me. Yeah, he chuckled as he finished with his shirt and slung his red tie on. Good luck with that, man. She's 15, I warned, tensing. 16 in March, but still. For the next 2 months, she was still very much 15. She's too young. Gibbsy snorted. Says the idiot who's been sticking his cock in anything with a pulse since first year. Gibbsy hit the nail on the head with that statement. For Christ's sake, I lost my virginity in first year to Loretta Crowley, who was 3 years older than me and had a lifetime more experience than me, behind the school sheds after school. Yeah, that was some clusterfuck of disaster. I was all nervous and clumsy movements, well aware that I was too young to be sticking my dick in anything but my hand. But I must have done something right, because Loretta happily joined me behind the sheds most days after school for several months before I got too busy with training and called time on our meetings. If I had to say what type of female I was interested in, it wouldn't be blondes or brunettes, curvy or skinny. My type was older, with every girl I'd ever been with having at least a couple of years on me. Sometimes many more. It wasn't a fetish or anything. I simply enjoyed the drama-free aura that older girls brought to the table. I enjoyed them when I was with them, and then I enjoyed it even more when I wasn't. That wasn't to say I didn't fancy the shite out of the girl I was with when I was with her. I did. And I was loyal too. I didn't fuck around. If a girl wanted exclusive, no strings, then I was more than happy to oblige. I didn't enjoy the hunt or the chase that appealed to most of the lads. If a girl was expecting me to chase her, and she was looking to the wrong guy, I wasn't in a position to be boyfriend material right now. It wasn't that I didn't want a girlfriend. I just didn't have time for one. I didn't have time for the constant dating or any of those demands. I was too busy. It was another reason I preferred older girls. They weren't expecting miracles from me. Right now, for example, I was fooling around with Bella Wilkinson from 6th year and had been since April last year. In the beginning, I liked Bella because she didn't breathe down my neck. At 19, she had a couple of years on me. She didn't hold me to some invisible standard I couldn't or wouldn't meet. And afterwards, I could walk away and concentrate on rugby while she left me to my own devices. But after a few months, I quickly realised that it wasn't me that Bella was interested in. It was the bullshit that came with being with me. It was all about the status with Bella. And by the time I realised it, I was too comfortable and too lazy to do anything about it. She wanted my dick. That was it. Well, my dick and my status. Now I stayed because she was familiar and I was lazy. Bella had one expectation from me. One requirement that, up until a couple of months ago, I was more than capable of providing. I hadn't been doing much of anything with Bella since before my surgery. I hadn't laid a finger on the girl since early November, when it had become too painful to even contemplate it. But my point was that, when it happened, it was just sex for me. A steady release. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I acknowledged that this was an unhealthy attitude towards life and relationships with the opposite sex, and that I was probably deeply jaded, but it was hard to remain a boy when I was living in a man's world. It also didn't help that I was playing rugby at a level where I was surrounded by men much older than me. Conversations that were meant for people much older than me. Women that were meant for men much older than me. Not girls, but women. Jesus. If my mother knew the half of the women who had offered themselves to me, grown-ass women, she'd pull my arse out of the academy and lock me in my room until I turned 21. In a way, my childhood was robbed from me because of my ability to play rugby. I grew up very quickly, taking on the role of a man when I was little more than a boy. Coached and pushed, pressured and championed. I didn't have a social life and childhood. Instead, I had expectations and a career. Sex was the reward I allowed myself for being, well, good. For controlling everything else in my life. For balancing my school and my sport with pristine control and iron will. I wasn't the only one like this. Aside from a couple of lads with long-term girlfriends, the rest of the lads in the academy were as bad as me. Actually, they were worse. I was discreet, they weren't. We're not talking about me, I told Gibbsy, dragging my attention back to the present, my anger growing by the second. She's a fucking kid. Too young for all you horny little pricks, and every asshole in this room needs respect that. 15 is a kid, Gibbsy countered, looking confused. The fuck you talking about, Johnny? 15 is young, I barked, frustrated. And illegal. Oh. Gibbsy grinned knowingly. I see. You don't see shit, Gibbs. I shot back. Since when did you start giving a shite about what any of us do? I don't. Do whatever and whoever the hell you want, I countered heatedly. Just not whore. He grinned widely, clearly goading me when he teased. Keep that talk up and I'm going to start thinking you're going soft for the girl. I'm not fucking around here, I countered, taking the bait. Relax, Johnny, Gibbsy said with a sigh. I've no intention of going near the girl. Good, I released a breath I hadn't realised I'd been holding. I can't vouch for the rest of them, though, he added, gesturing his thumb behind him. Nodding stiffly, I turned my attention to the busy changing room and stood up, bristling with agitation. Listen up, I barked, drawing everyone's attention to me. That girl in the pitch earlier. I waited until I had my teammates' attention, and then I waited for understanding to cross their features before bursting into a rant. What happened to her out there today? It'd be embarrassing as hell for anyone, and especially for a girl. So I don't want to hear one word of it repeated around the school or town. My voice took on a threatening hint when I said, if it gets back to me that any of you have been talking about her, well, I don't have to explain what will happen. Some snickered, and I turned my glare on the culprit. You have two sisters, Pierce, I snapped, glaring at the red-faced hooker. How would you feel if that happened to Mary Beth or Candice? Would you like the lads talking about her like that? No, I wouldn't. Pierce reddened further. Sorry, Cap, he muttered. You won't hear it back from me. Good man, I replied, nodding before facing the team. You don't bring up what happened with her close to anyone. Not your pillow pals or friends. It's gone, erased. Never fucking happened. And while we're on the subject, don't talk to her, I added. On a roll now, my commands this time for entirely selfish reasons. I didn't dare think too much about it. Don't get any notions about her. In fact, don't look at her at all. To be fair to them, most of the senior players on the team just nodded and went back to whatever they'd been doing before my outburst, letting me know that I was being irrational about this. But then there was Ronan fucking McGarry, and his mouth to contend this. I didn't like this guy. Couldn't stand him if I was being honest. He was a loud-mouthed ordier who pranced around the school like he was a king of the hill. His cocky attitude had only magnified an annoyance this year when he was brought into the senior team at school after ACL injury had finished Bobby Riley's seasons early. McGarry was a mediocre rugby player at best, playing scrum half for the school this season, and a goddamn pain in my arse to cover on the pitch. He was only on the team in the first place because his mother was the coach's sister. It certainly wasn't for his talent. Give me great pleasure taking him down a peg or 10 at any given opportunity. Why? He taunted, from the safety of the opposite end of the change room. Are you laying claim? The blonde little fucker, encouraged by a couple of his bench warmer buddies, continued. Is she yours now or something, Kavanagh? Well, she's certainly not yours, prickface. I shot back without hesitation. Not that I was including you in the statement. Sniffing, I looked him up and down slowly, with feigned displeasure before adding, yeah, you're not an issue for me. Several of the lads erupted into howls of laughter at McGarry's expense. Fuck you, he spat. Ouch, I feigned hurt, then grinned across the room at him. That hurt so much. She's my class, he tossed out. Good for you, I clapped, not liking this new information one bit, but burying my annoyance with a heavy dollop sarcasm. Do you want a medal or a trophy for that? Turning my attention back to my team, I added, she's young, lads, too young for any of you, so stay the fuck away. Not for me, the little prick piped up. She's the same age as me. No, not a matter of age for you, I countered evenly. She's just too good for you. More laughs at his expense. Everyone might act like you're some kind of god at this school, he growled, but she's fair game as far as I'm concerned. Puffing out his chest like a defected gorilla, he smirked at me. If I want her, I'll have her. Fair game. I barked out a laugh. If you want her, you'll have her. Christ, kid, what world are you living in? Ronan's cheeks turned pink. I live in the real world, he spat. The one where people have to work for what they get, and not have it handed to them because they're in the academy. You think so? I arched a brow, tilting my head on one side to take his measure. Apparently not when you're deluded enough to think I've been handed everything in my life, and especially when you refer to girls as fair game. Shaking my head, I added, they're girls, McGarry, not Pokemon cards. God, you think you're so great, don't you? He snapped, jaw clenched. You think you're so fucking amazing? Well, you're not. Growing bored of his antics, I shook my head and gave him an out. Sling your hook, kid. We're not playing this game with you today. Why don't you do us all a favour and sling your hook, Johnny? I wish you'd just fuck off to the use and be done with it. He roared, face turning an ugly shade of purple. That's what you're in the academy for, right? He demanded, tone furious. To be conditioned, to move up the ranks and get contract. Huffing out the breath, he snarled. Then fucking move. Leave Tommen. Go back to Dublin. Take your contracts and go the fuck away. Education is important, Ronan. I grinned, relishing in his hatred of me. The academy teaches us that. I bet the Irish heads don't even want you. He tossed back angrily. All this talk about you joining the under-20s in the summer is all bullshit. You made it up yourself. Kid, you need to walk away now. Huey Biggs, our number 10, and a good friend of mine interjected with a sigh. You sound like a fucking clown. Me? Ronan barked, glaring across the room at Huey. He's the asshole walking around his town like he owns it, getting special treatment from the teachers and ordering all you around. And you just take it. And you're stinking up the room with your jealousy. Huey countered in a lazy drawl. Pack it in, kid. He added, dragging a hand through his blonde hair as he came to stand beside me and Gibbs. You're making a right idiot of yourself. Stop calling me a kid. Ronan roared, voice breaking, as he charged towards us. I'm not a fucking kid. Neither Gibbsy, Huey or I moved an inch, all highly entertained at his tantrum. Ronan had been a problem for the team since September, defying orders, breaking rank, pulling stupid stunts on the pitch that almost cost us several games. This little outburst of his wasn't the first one. It was just another in a long list of many tantrums. He was ridiculous and needed reining in. If his uncle wasn't prepared to do it, and I was. He's your captain, Patrick Feely piped up, much to my surprise, as he and several members of the team came and stood in front of me, blocking McGarry's pathetic attempt at exulting power and showing their support for me. Show a little respect, McGarry. Well, shite. I felt terrible now. I looked at Feely, my eyes full of remorse for my earlier on-pitch antics. The look he gave me assured me that for him, it was long forgotten. It still didn't sit well with me. McGarry's right about one thing. I did get preferential treatment in town. I worked like a dog on the pitch and was rewarded fabulously off it. I would use that pool to buy Feely appointed biddies at the weekend. Gibbs and Huey too. Run home to your mammy, Ronan, Gibbsy ordered, shoving him towards the changing room exit. Maybe she'll get your leggers out. Swinging open the door with one hand, Gibbsy pushed him out with the other. You're not ready to play with the big boys. I bet your Shannon won't be saying that. Ronan snarled, forcing himself back in the room. Or should I say, she won't be able to. He grinned darkly, eyes locked in my face, while my cock is buried down her throat. Keep talking about her like that, I said, fists forming in the tight balls at my sides. I would love as reason to tear your fucking head off. I sat behind her this morning in French, you know. He taunted, grinning widely now. Had I known what she was hiding under that skirt, I would have been more than friendlier. Winking, he added, there's always tomorrow. And that, folks, is how you sign your own death certificate. Huey muttered, throwing his hands up in resignation. You stupid little bollocks. No one person tried to stop me when I barreled towards Ronan. No one dared. I'd hit my quota of bullshit for the day, and the lads knew it. Now listen to me, you little fucker, I hissed, hand wrapped round his throat, as I dragged him back into the room, closing the door from witnesses with my free hand. And listen good, because I'm only going to tell you this one more time.